Um, so since we have an internship program, we asked our mentees to work on React and Next.js. And I thought it would be best to talk about JS fundamentals since these are the building blocks if you want to be good at React. So this event was supposed to be for our mentees only, but we thought why not spread it to other people too who might need it. So I'm glad that all of you guys are here, and hopefully this will be a very valuable session for everyone. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? JavaScript fundamentals. We're talking about primitive values, objects, functions, and how it can help in coding. All right, let's start. What is the importance of JavaScript fundamentals? You may ask. One of the things is it improves problem solving skills. What is problem solving skills? It's all about finding solutions, right, to a problem and knowing what the problem is. Once you know whether the problem is related to a syntax or a specific logic error, you can then use the tools in your toolbox to find a solution efficiently. So for instance, if your code throws a syntax error, you might need to check like there's some missing characters, semicolons, and match braces. If you encounter a type error, it's likely an issue with the data type. You may be uh, using a null or undefined, and you have to debug these things, right? So identifying the type of a problem narrows down your search for the solution. Okay, next one. Why is it important? Code readability and maintainability. So JavaScript is a language, right? And like any language, I'm not talking about just programming language. I'm only also talking about like how we speak, like English, Filipino, Chinese, stuff like that. Like any language, there are certain grammar rules you need to observe. For example, with an object, this is how it looks like, right? An object literal notation and array literal notation looks different. And they define data structures in different ways in JavaScript. And an object literal is defined with using curly brackets, and it defines with key and value pairs. With an array, is defined with using square brackets. So there's like a difference with how you use them and how you define them. And next one, efficiency in debugging. So just like any language, for example, learning English, you will be more efficient when you know the vocabulary, right? So what are these vocabularies that you have? There are primitive values, for example. So what are these primitive values? There are string, number, boolean, null, undefined, symbol, and big int. There's actually defined by Dan Abramov. He defined it as 9 primary primitive types. So knowing how to use these primitive primitives correctly can help you debug your code more efficiently. For example, understanding the difference between a null and undefined can prevent you from making common mistakes. And that happens a lot actually, because null and undefined in essence are empty or like doesn't hold a value, but actually they're two different types. And there's a very common mistake because let's say a backend sends you a data, and you have to make sure if you're like checking it with a val with a variable, is this variable undefined or no? And you actually have to know what are you getting from a specific data source. Next one is adaptability for new frameworks. All right, so once you are more fluent with your vocabulary or fundamentals in JavaScript, you can make phrases, sentences, and even stories. Because you know what? A code base is basically a large story arc. That's how I see it. And I've been learning this for my 9 years of being a software engineer. Like you're actually writing something to produce something, you know, it's a story. You're trying to tell a story. That could mean a product that has different outcomes based on many variables, right? So for example, framers like React or Vue allow you to build complex user interfaces, like complex stories, complex like seasons of stories, by composing smaller components, and which are the foundation is JavaScript actually. So if you understand the basics of JavaScript, picking up these frameworks becomes easier, as you can see how they build on and extend JavaScript's core principles. And the last one is confidence in coding. All right. Well, once you grasp the fundamentals of JavaScript, you are comfortable with it. Let's say with English again, if you're comfortable with English, you know when to not make mistakes. You know when to use certain words and grammar. So it's similar with JavaScript. Once you're comfortable with the fundamentals, you can write code with confidence. You'll know when to use let or const, how to structure functions, how to handle async await, and stuff like that. This confidence translates into fewer errors and more efficient problem solving. All right, so I really hope you get something from this. From this so far, I hope we're on the same page. There's a lot of resources around the internet, you guys. Like MDN is there, like free resources, right? Like right there in the palm of our hands. There's MDN, there's like the W3 schools and so many things. So I advise you guys to read more about this stuff. Okay, so let's get on primitive values. So primitive values is actually coming from a type, right? So it depends on the type, which I said earlier, the string, number, boolean, big int, symbol, undefined, null, and objects and functions. So how do you actually know what like if you have a value, how do you know what is the type? So you could use the this this declaration called type of, and then you wrap it with parentheses and you put the value inside. Actually, you don't need the parentheses, but it just looks more, looks more readable. So let's say you put a type of test. The type of test is string. Type of one is number, and type of this one with the curly brackets is an object, right? And we just want to define what is objects and functions, because for other people actually they think functions are objects, but if you console log, the type of the function is actually a function. But yeah, they're yeah they both have properties, because so they kind of have they're in the same category. And objects are collections of properties, where a property is an association between a name or key and a value. Functions are reusable blocks of code designed to perform a particular task. All right, so actually, I want to go to some practical examples. Let me switch. Okay, I'm on JS Fiddle right now. Let me know if you can see. It might be too small for you guys. Is this too small? Is this okay now? I don't know how to sidebar this. You guys can see, right? Um, I guess that's a yes. So maybe one more. What about this? So let's say I do this. You can read that. All right, thank you. Okay, let's first of all let's do the difference of const and let. So const is something that when you declare a variable, it shouldn't be changed. It's a constant. So when you do a equals 0, const a equals 0, and you do a equals 1, what will be the uh wait. Let's do console log a here. And if you run that, that is wrong. Oh, see, we shouldn't be able to do that because we're assigning another value to it. So yep. That's why I didn't have a console log in the first place. I forgot. Sorry. So it will throw an error for you, a type error, because you cannot uh assign a value to a const variable. So how do you do that if you want to assign another value to a variable? So you should use let. In that case, this shouldn't throw us. See? Wait, let me clear it. It shouldn't throw us a type error because let means I don't know why they use let, but I guess you're letting it become another variable. I don't know. So a here becomes 1. All right. I'm pretty sure you guys know that already, but just to be sure. Okay, and then we can see here different types of the uh, the primitive values. So if you run this, you can see, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I wrapped it. This is how, by the way, segue, this is how I do debugging. So you have a list of variables, you just put it in an object, and so that when you console log it, it's like in one line, you know? Anyway, that's another thing. And so we can see here A is a test, B is 0, C here is undefined because we didn't define it with anything, and null, true, and this is how you make, this is how you create a big int. Big int is basically like a very big integer. Symbol, to be honest, I've never used it anywhere in my entire programming life. So I cannot tell anything about it, but this is how you create a symbol. And it's good. And objects and functions. So let's see, this is how you define an object. So usually objects are defined and used in, let's say, a dropdown. A dropdown will have a label, a value, and if you run that, it will look like this. Okay, what about functions? It's pretty easy with the object. And now what about the function? You run it. See, you get the type of get meal. It's a function. Okay, pretty cool. So, um, next one. Where's my, all right. Okay, before we go on, are there any questions? Any questions so far about primitive values? You can type on the chat box. All right, not so far. So, um, yeah, this talk is like it's pretty short actually. Um, like like a lightning talk, to be honest. The next one I want to show you guys is, maybe you're wondering like how does it connect to React, right? So I thought, since everyone is used to use state, I thought of how to make sense of a use state. So let's see. How would you try to understand the use state hook? Since we learned the JS fundamentals, right? You know, when I started learning about the use state, for me, it looked like it was magical, you know, it just works. Um, but I was actually digging before this event. I was actually digging, where's the implementation in the React GitHub? I couldn't find it. Actually, it's not public for everyone, but I managed to have a simple implement. This is not the official implementation, but this is how it would look like in a simple implementation. And if you remember, useState exposes an array, right? A state array and a function. So basically, what it's doing, I think, is there's an array of state list and there's a counter for the index. See, if you don't know the JS fundamentals, this will look like, you know, even the usual use state declaration, it would look like it's very it's like magic, or you know, uncommon. But if you want to dig through it, it will make more sense, right? So useState is basically a function. It's a function that takes in, if you remember, the initial value. So initial value goes to, where did they use it? Here. So there's an initialized state. So they're incrementing the state index, and on the first index, they're putting the initial value to it. Now the set state in this scenario, the current index has already been incremented, and now we get the new value. And possibly on every set state we render the component, right? And that is why you gotta know, guys, that every time you use set state, even though with batching, so all the batches has been done, so there's a render, and you have to be very careful with that. And lastly, so we get the current index of the state list for the state, and we have a set state function, which is this one. Cool, right? So yeah, that's basically it. That's my talk. Very fast. I didn't want to take too much of your time, but do you guys have any questions, um any doubts, or yeah, whatever? This is like the Q&A session of the event, actually. Okay, seems everything is clear. Um, yeah, sure, I can share the slide to you. No problem. Yeah, yeah, maybe, or is there anything like that's new to you? Oh, the use state implementation. You didn't get it. Okay, let's go back actually. I don't know if this is the actual one, but it kind of makes sense, right? So what happens here is, let me see. The current index, there's a current index that's taking from state index, which is like outside of the function. And then now the on this line, current index is 0, and state index now is 1, right? So here, state list 0, the first state list is the initial value. And then you return the state list current index, which is still 0. Sorry. So now when you do a set state, what is the current index here now? It would have been, because you use the set state, this would have been called again, and now state index would have been 1. It would be the second index. So state is 1 equals the new value from the set state. So, and then you render the component, and yeah, it's done. Yeah. Yeah. Any more questions? How do I over here? Yeah. Yeah, probably. It doesn't mutate the array. It does not mutate the array. It just adds to the array. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I hope it was a very valuable lesson and fruitful lesson for everyone. If you want to check out our internship, please go to projectneo.dev. We would like to host more of these webinars. We'll probably send in some surveys to get some, like future topics from you guys. Thank you for being here. And if you have no other questions, I'll see you around. And thank you for being here, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye bye.